Oh,
Aw, sweet.
beautiful, fluffy one.
Let me go.
All right. So welcome everybody to this unplanned session. And while using the chance, I would like to update you guys on what we are cooking for you all. Two updates. One, well, this is our Figma board. You know, we don't have a designer, so we are designers, and we're trying to multi-learn. This is the classes we've been doing so far in different cities, and currently we are planning this. You guys see my screen now? Yeah, so we are putting live soon a new program, Certified Orthopologist Consultant, COTC. And the goal of this training is to help us elevate organizations and their performance with human and artificial intelligence. So we are adding AI to the mix, but not because everybody is doing that, but because we see more and more. And the message from Craig Alarman from 2 and 3 years ago, slowly, we're catching up on that message that AI has profound implications on org design. And that's why we believe we cannot ignore that anymore. And currently, I'm actually helping several companies to adopt, no, actually, one company quite seriously, and the others just talking to really understand how they're currently applying AI and help them to understand how to go, deeper and broader on that. And I understand now that like almost every developer has some sort of AI license, Copilot or Cursor, and people start seeing the value of that. And it's just beginning of 2025. GPT-5 will be announced soon, and the progress is accelerating, as we all know. So we'll see more and more of these things happening, and that's why we would like to add more focus on AI. So we will offer some kind of an upgrade program for OTPs and certified OTPs like you guys here, Olena, Steiner, Eme, and we will explain you what this AI aspect adds to org topologies and how org topologies is the first human-centric and AI-ready approach there. And hopefully you will be able to really quickly understand the value and start applying this in your orgs. So that's one event, one update from us. Another update is that we are going to, in our membership community, so far we have had, these events with guests that we all enjoyed listening to and talking to. And we're adding to the mix another types of events like this one where we octopology people will be talking about octopologies, like no guests, like us discussing our stuff, because we believe that should be the heart, of the value of the membership community. And today I would like to share some thoughts I've collected recently while talking to these companies who are applying AI and seeing some implications. And AI, and I will share my slides in a minute. Um, I'm happy to be interrupted and challenged because that's, I guess, the first time I'm doing this slide. So I'm happy to learn and improve. This story is kind of personal. Well, it's not about me, but it's about all of us because like AI is like, it's a technology. It's cool. It's fine. But I guess it has this very black other side of it, job safety, right? I mean, it's not a secret. In 10, 15 years, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and we don't know how and what. But we can probably fight it for another 5 years to stay in our jobs and to make this 5 years nice and sweet. And the best of it, I think we need to start thinking about that. So that's essentially the essence of my presentations. And now you should see my title slide, which says versatile. a guide for an ordinary superhuman for staying relevant in the age of the AI. And I put relevant in italic, and this word will be repeated multiple times in this talk. Do you have any questions up until now? Roland, do you have any question?
No, no questions.
Do you know the word versatile?
No questions, just emotions.
Emotions. So what are your emotions so far?
I'm thinking maybe I need to retire earlier, then I will lose my job.
Actually, if you have enough savings, retiring earlier these days is not a bad idea, frankly speaking. But if you have to stay in the job market, you'd better be relevant, you know?
Yeah.
And being versatile is an answer to that. But I'm gonna go back to this. Got me thinking, like, who will be the first people who lose their job? So I'll stay on the dark side for a moment, and then I'll jump to some ideas that might solve the problem. Who will be the first people who will lose their jobs, or whose jobs will be significantly impacted and impaired? Are these like developers, knowledge workers, or people like on assembly lines, or some physical workers, like white collar or the other color workers? What do you think?
I don't know if it's white collar, blue collar difference.
Hmm. I
But
think it
but
is.
still, the people who have like more monotonous kind of jobs, of
Hmm.
course, are prone to be replaced by some solution that is cheaper, doesn't complain, and can work 24/7.
Hmm. Okay. Other opinions in the room?
I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's working in the design.
Hmm.
She's a UX designer and like creative designer.
Yeah.
And what she told me is that actually the end of the process AI is not able to do. So like the work of finalization, making vector finalizations, like
But these are
export
edge
and stuff.
cases, right? These are edge cases.
No, she said that you would always need somebody who would be at the end of the process trying to polish the things. And if you try to do design with the recent AI kind of
Yeah.
ChatGPT tooling, like the most difficult part is not the creative part,
Hmm.
but like asking and persuading ChatGPT to finish it as you want it. So
Sure.
we may have a feeling that the repetitive work will be replaced and creative work will be belonging to us. But for now, my impression is it will be the opposite. So this is kind of a sad, dark side that I have on
Okay.
my radar, my experience.
Thanks for sharing, Alexei. And of course, we don't know, and it's hard to read the future. But where is it all going now is that the UX visual designers will be not maybe replaced, but significantly augmented. And the number of them will be reduced in the companies, maybe comparing to the scavengers or garbage men. So the knowledge workers are probably the first one to feel that effect of AI. Although we all are afraid of the robots and stuff, but I think this will come in 5, 10 years. But for now, AI is going to replace knowledge workers, but not like every knowledge worker. Like your example, Alexei, that a person has some very special skills that AI currently is not able to cover, right? So my take is this one: like, will not replace everybody just yet, but it will affect more single specialist knowledge workers, right? So if you're doing just one thing, and if you're just good at that one thing, and that one thing can be automated, then of course you don't have a plan B. If you are good at multiple things and one is being taken by the AI, well, at least you have plan B and plan C, right? So this is the thing. We all can lose the relevancy, and you could also think about like the jobs you've done up until now. Some people, and I've got these jobs many times, like I had to come up with a retrospective agenda for teams. Come on, these days you just ask GPT and it's done, right? So some things are being replaced quite already now. And if you're not happy with the AI, quality 2025, as Craig Larman says, wait for 5 years. And I think now we can just wait for half a year and the quality will be drastically improved. So yeah, we still in 2025 where AI is still kind of not there yet. But I'm not discussing like the next month's future. I'm trying to discuss like what's going to happen, say 2026, 2027. Interesting tweet quote from Ken Beck, creator of XP. I hope you're reading. It's interesting observation, right? He's saying the value of 90% of his skills dropped to $0. So if you were like, I was really proud at some point. I was good at code refactorings. I love that. I can detect code smells. I understand what clean code is, especially in the languages I spend most of my time. Say Java was one of them, and I can really understand how you would rewrite this code. Now refactoring, which is done by AI, pretty nicely already. So that was one of my skill, and the value of it dropped almost to zero. So we all need to understand what are the other skills that we have that we can still, multiply and keep sharp. So from that quote of Ken Beck, I'm deriving that to stay relevant, we need to focus on our core strengths. And now I'm not talking about teams or company. I'm just talking about us, individuals. Yeah. So the majority of this talk is addressing individual concerns. We really need to spend time thinking what I am really good at, right? And hopefully that stuff is not yet being eaten by AI. And then if I know what I'm really good at, say speaking to myself, I can really spot on organizational dysfunctions because I've seen so many different orgs. Okay, now the next step is, well, actually, if you describe some kind of organization to a GPT, and we've done this with Roland at testing org topologies AI, pretty much without a lot of books uploaded, it can already explain you like what you would expect in an organization, like the component dynamics or contract gaming dynamics. Like it knows all of it. So even having sharp eye in some things already being eaten by AI. So the question is, okay, I have this strengths. How can I get better at that? Right? And then you need to keep recalibrating. Going back to Ken Beck's quote, right? Because today AI is bad at something, tomorrow it will be better. So you will probably need to, adapt and really understand how to go this extra mile to do something AIs still are bad at. You guys still with me on this? Does this make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah. I hope this all doesn't happen. But it seems it is happening. So yeah.
I'm curious, Alexey.
Yeah.
Recalibrating what Ken Beck was saying,
Yeah.
that he suddenly realized that 10% of what his abilities became much more valuable and the rest were totally deprecated.
Right.
Useless. Did he specify anywhere?
No, he didn't specify in the tweet, and I don't talk to him personally. But I talked to Craig Larman, and I've been to his 5-day class on AI augmented software design. And the message he was sitting there in the class is that, coding is, it will be automated. The code is the new machine code was his message. So like the Java code will become essentially not interesting for us, as now we don't look at the machine code anymore. And what's the next level abstraction of code that we humans still are better at than AIs? And claim of Craig is software design. like design patterns, enterprise patterns, seeing those connections and being able to draw some sketches of how architecture should look like, and then use AI, to fill in the gaps. And what he believes is his essentially core strengths. And I think it's true for most software engineers. A great software engineer knows what software design is, architecture and all those qualities of a good
But
design.
isn't that just knowledge? I mean, I'm trying to be here with you, but it's
I don't
to me
know.
it sounds like that's what AI is good at, having
No, but
knowledge
it's
and combining
knowledge.
things.
Yeah, it's knowledge is it is analyzing, it is synthesizing, and I think AIs like 2 days ago I was about to create a small app with a cursor, and the first 20 minutes we didn't write any code. I just opened the chat window and we're chatting about the architecture and the choice of architecture. I ask, hey, this will be the capabilities of the app. Like, recommend me like what the architecture should look like. Do I need a separate backend or not? And eventually, we ended up with this storing data in memory because, etc., etc. So you can already have quite meaningful architectural discussions, but this is starting from scratch. I mean, I think we're still far from, if you have a very big legacy app, for the AI to really understand all the nitty-gritty details. Although I also hear stories that you can discuss architecture and AI will suggest improvements. So I'm not sure, Roland, but definitely the level of abstraction is going up. Maybe it's patterns, design patterns, maybe it's something else. And I think sooner or later, AI will catch up on those capabilities. So it's just a matter of staying ahead, you know,
I
for the
don't
time
know. Maybe
for the
it's
time being.
maybe it's a matter of staying the exception or staying the unpredictable or doing crazy things because that's probably not what AI is going to be good at.
Yeah, who's gonna pay for crazy things?
Well, we all
Yeah.
go and see art shows and stuff, so I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
But
I think yeah, we all go to art shows and ballets and operas. I don't want to see a singing robot
no,
or a dancing one. So I guess that entertainment thing part where humans still are relevant to humans is important.
although ABBA sold a lot of tickets with their
Yeah,
holograms.
yeah, sure the two, but it's just because it's a new thing. Like when everybody's doing holograms, that becomes yeah. So you need to keep looking for that thing. And now it feels like we are fighting with AI, right? But I think number four is actually sitting down with your enemy. It's a nice picture I prompted today, GPT. I said, draw me a human and a robot that worked together after they had a fight. I think that's exactly what it is, right? So, and then, like going back to this 3 points of knowing your strengths, improving, and recalibrating, you can use AI for that, for sure. So AI, it's a thing that will eventually kill us or replace us, right? But for now, we can still use it as a good friend. And I think that's only smart to do it now because it can make us superhuman, I think. Now, and it's only for $20. You can become a superhuman. We're writing a book now, Roland. I think you know that. And I'm like at least 10x a better writer with AI. I have a discussion about the structure of the book. We brainstorm about the storyline. I ask for critique, ideas. I type my bad English statements or a short storyline, a narrative, and then the AI, using the previous chapters we agreed on this in the same style, it recreates the story, which is the same way I would have written that, only if I were a native speaker and a better writer. So it's not just I'm 10x faster, but I think I'm 10x better as a writer and it's only for $20. And I think it's a way to prolong relevancy, And it will be hard to know which books on the shelves are being written by AI completely or by humans. We will never know. But even before, people use other people to write books on the names. So it's not really a big change, right? The only issue with this 10x thing is the following. And so imagine you're a full-time visual designer in a product company, right? So you're not just doing visual designs, it's a product company and visual design is just a part of it. Now, say with AI, you can get to 10x. And I buy the argument from Alexey, maybe AI still doesn't do all the finishing. You still need to do something. Fine, but you are more productive, but because it can take some of the initial jobs, right? Okay, like what's the result? The result is the following. Probably there will be not enough designs to work on, right? You will be out of backlog pretty soon if you're just going 10x faster because nobody needs so many designs, right? If you're a database engineer, like how many more databases can you create, administrate? Front-end developers, there will be not enough front ends to build. Back-end developers will be not enough backends to build. I think that's the storyline of Craig Larman speaking at Less Conference 2024 and just repeating because now I think I got what he was trying to say, right? Is that, yeah, this is a really big problem if you're a single specialist, even with AI. Like, what are you gonna do, right? There will be not enough work within any given skill when we're all 10x'd, I guess. Unless you are like working in a visual design firm where you can have an infinite number of designs demanded from the firm that maybe there, but all other firms also 10x. So no, it's not gonna work even in a studio, right? So the doomsday is inevitable. Somehow, even AI will not help us to survive. So what do we do? And now I'm switching quickly and slowly at the same time to solutions. And I think we all know them, although it's hard to accept them because the industry has been really trying hard to fight the obvious solution. Because it's not that obvious and it's not so easy. And I asked AI to draw a person who can do many things together with the shape of an M letter, and M shaping. So M stands for multi-learning in M shaping. So I think we're going there. And you guys know about T shaping, right? T-shape individual has this dash, long dash, good at something, and they can also know some other things. Not good enough to be a good team member, because to be a good team member and to be versatile and to still relevant and to stay relevant, you need to be good at many different things. Maybe two, maybe three, maybe more. So this M shaping or pi shaping, the pi letter or the Russian Cyrillic P letter is the one that has many dashes going deep down. So what are the strategies for M shaping? I figured few. And well, you can acquire a vertical skill, say managing single skill AI agents. It's still M shaping because that's a new skill, although you're staying in your function. Like as a designer, you can manage an army of AI agents doing designs. You become a manager, right? But for AI agents. And I think that's where many people will move, already moving into this field. And I don't have good examples because it's still like happening just now.
Well, actually, it's a little bit what Alexey said, maybe along those lines. But you will need to have people who observe, monitor, and do the final checks. That's also one way of managing the stuff that the AIs put out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he didn't mean that that lady was doing agents. But yes, I mean, if there is some stuff she needs to finish after AI, like integrate the work.
Hmm.
Essentially, if we if we go to octopologies, that's staying in a resource topology, but being not a resource, but being a manager of resources, right? How do you call it, box, Roland, up there on topologies? Directing archetypes. So you are designer, doer. Now you are directing archetype, and doers are your AI agents. I think that will happen for sure already pretty soon. And of course, faster with simple single skill activities. I'm waiting to have an AI agent who can cut and process our videos. Currently not able to find something, so I have to do it myself. But this is like a vertical M shaping because you're still in your narrow function. And of course, you can go horizontally. You can get to an end-to-end outcome-oriented specialist. That's where it's interesting because when you're adding new skills, not just going vertical, but going horizontal, like speaking of Octopology's map, you acquire different skills. You can now create something that has real value. And now it's not about output, more designs, but more outcome, like something real the customers need. Like, example, designer learned product development and software design skills. And now this person, can come up with an idea of a product, create a quick prototype, go validate with customers, add some nice designs, etc. It's not yet cutting end to end because you still need to deploy, you still need to maintain. We all know like software development doesn't stop after the code is done, but you're going somewhere. Yeah, and also tools are going to help with the deployments and everything. And I think the combination of Y and 2 is actually also helping you because some things it's easier to just become a manager of your AI agents. In some areas, it's maybe feasible to learn, acquire another skill. So I think this is going to happen. Interesting example just from recent discussion a few days ago with a company where people are really trying different AI techniques. So a company has a long-running suite of end-to-end tests where many tests are flaky. So when the tests fail, you don't really know, like if it failed for a good reason or it was just you need to rerun it. So this is like a real bad problem to have. And I talked to a guy, like fantastic engineer, a tester, who actually learned how to build a solution with LLM. They use Llama from Facebook because they wanted to host LLM themselves without sending the data to the cloud. So he learned how to host LLM and configure it and everything to be able to distinguish between flaky test and real failing test. And he showed me the tool, how it works, like amazing. And then he said, I had no idea how to code. That really struck me because it sounds like a real interesting solution he built without actually being a real software developer. And now when the tests fail, the tool can check who made the changes to that particular part of the product by using Git history and Jira history. And then the tool was able to predict or actually analyze which team is likely he needs to contact as a tester to address some problems. Like, wow. My first reaction was, wow. After 2 days of thinking about this, I come to realize, hey, it's still wow in terms of like engineering skills, but you're not really solving here the real problem. Being the tests are flaky, right? And you still, after the suite is run and it's red, you still don't know if it's red for sure. So you can build a lot of great stuff with AI, and probably it's going to help. But if you don't, cross different boundaries, you can create a lot of stuff which is still wasteful from global perspective. Say this company maybe invested 20K for letting this guy build this solution, right? They could have invested this money in actually going and maybe finding the tests which are flaky with AI and actually helping their development teams to rewrite those tests also with AI. So they become stable tests. That would be an ultimate solution, I think. I think they will still go somewhere, like in this direction in this company. Is just the early version, but the power of AI, even in the hands of functional person like a tester, it's amazing. But that's where it got interesting because now we're going from individual perspective to team perspective, and if your team has a very high specialization, I think that creates separation. We all know about the separation between analysts, developers, testers, etc. And we all, as coaches, scrum masters, really try to fight it and create more fluid teams, right? And we try to solve it with Kanban boards and retrospectives. I'm not trying to be sarcastic here because this is what I've been doing for many years, but we didn't have right tools for the job. We saw the problem, right? If everybody in the team is a dash person or a T person, the team is not fluid because there still will be a moment in a sprint, if you do sprints, that there'll be more testing demand than development demand. And then, you're still not working like all together on the problem. Now, if we can go to M shaping, which has always been a good idea, like multi-learning is mentioned in the first paper on Scrum. Was it 87, Roland? Something.
I mean the new product development game,
Yeah,
or
80s.
80s? Yeah.
Yeah. So like even there, it's already been a thing. So M shaping or multi-learning is not a new thing, but it gets this new twist now with AI. But if you go to M shaping, if it's a real solution, the benefits are the teams become more fluid because you essentially erase the boundaries between the specialists. A tester now can code with cursor, and a developer can look at tests with AI and improve them, for example, right? And they all can analyze a document, a requirement. I have an example later on here in slides. Everyone is getting to become an end-to-end, and by doing this, everybody is in the team becomes more like the others, right? Like everybody is now can analyze, develop, and test. So if people are more alike, it creates this super nice fluidity in the team, and they can work now together in the same moment on the same thing. It was always this premise of Scrum to focus everybody. Being able to work on many things doesn't mean you don't have an expertise. I mean, in complex domains like software development, you still need deep expertise at times. And hopefully people are still remembering their deep expertise. Maybe it's, debugging or database optimization or cloud deployment. It's still very much needed. And now together, they all can focus on the outcomes, not on development or testing or analysis or something else, but they can really work together at the same time to work some higher goal, which is this fantastic promise of a great team, essentially. You guys might know this book, Leading Teams by Richard Hackman. He had this definition of a real team. A real team is a distinct from mere collection of individuals working in proximity. It requires intentional design and alignment to foster effective teamwork, he writes in the book. So now the real team is real, I think, with AI. We can have now real tools, not retrospectives or Kanban boards. So we can really have good tools to make it happen. And you guys know Craig Alarman, actually 2 years ago, like it's 2 days before 2 years. That's why LinkedIn thinks it's still 1 year ago. He came up with this acronym GLAD. GLAD stands for Generative AI LLM Assisted Development. And I think we are getting closer and closer to that. And the next stage is probably Glide developers orchestrating AI agents. And that's your product team of the future. You probably do not need seven plus minus two people anymore. You can have smaller teams. Henrik Knieberg, in some discussion, mentioned that he also sees teams are getting smaller. So we're gonna have smaller teams of end-to-end GLAD developers and AI agents. That's where we are heading, and everybody is multi-learning. And maybe AI agent can multi-learn at some point too. And octopology people, we all know where this is going, right? So that's why that what actually that what makes octopology's like human-centric and AI-ready approach. Because yes, it's about people. We want people to know the direction. We want people to understand the change. We want people to learn and own this change. And we understand AI can work as a great accelerator on the journey. So it's not about replacing people, eliminating. It's about elevating people with AI. And to build on that, so my story so far went from individual perspective. Remember that a person who working on a street versus the designer, the job safety. Then we went into discussing implication on a team of multi-learning, and we concluded a person can stay longer relevant if she become superhuman with AI to better do 10%. Then we went to discuss the team's implications. With M-shaped individual teams become better, more fluid, more fit for a purpose, more outcome oriented. And now I'd like to shed a few thoughts rather on what it might mean for inter-team collaboration. So an example, right? You build teams and align them with some known value. Right? We all understand there are some frameworks out there which help you to understand your product, cut it into value areas, streams, whatever you call them, and align the teams along this too. And it's great because it makes teams super fast, right? It's probably not a cheap, fast change. You need to really understand your product. You need to really create real teams around those areas. So now you're done. Like everybody's working on these streams. Fantastico. 9 months later, your business environment changes, your product strategy needs to adapt. Your team's not value aligned anymore. Maybe some of them still are, some of them are not. So they are semi-aligned, but probably some of them are not relevant anymore. Because you thought you would need to work on that search thing for a long time. But now, something changed on the market, competitors came up with some feature, and now you'd better stop doing that search and rather switch to something else. But hey, all of your teams are utilized and are assigned to streams. So what do? Right? You can go and you can realign the teams, create new streams, new teams. Probably it's not bad, but it doesn't really change the root. The solve the root cause is that your structure static and your environment is dynamic. So eventually, occasionally, it will be again the fact that your teams are not aligned, and then you'll need to again and again recalibrate them. So what really stops the teams to learn new areas and go from search to something else? Before 2024, people would say cognitive overload, right? It's a big argument because we cannot learn everything instantaneously, and some things we cannot learn at all. And if you switch a team from one thing to another, and these things are completely not related to each other, it takes a lot of time for the developers to dive into the domain, really understand the requirements, really understand the problems, the customer language, and then the code base is different. Of course, it will make everything slow. And I think this is still a case, and it still will be a case forever, I guess, for humans, up until the moment we got some smart chips in our brain. I don't know, but um, but I think with AI, this effect is not diminished, but it's not removed by but diminished, right? You can quicker and easier, hopefully, will be able to switch between things to stay more relevant. Just give you some example. I know it's an example, it's oversimplification. Like I'm working with one company which is building um, a feature for banks where you can make a photo of that invoice and all the fields will be automatically filled in. So they are in this field of invoicing. And now in Germany and maybe also in Europe, you have this new standard like X-Rechnung, so like XML format for invoicing companies need to accept, and some other things I cannot even pronounce anymore happening in this invoicing business, because eventually your tax department, I think long term, wants to be able to actually go and check whether your invoice is fake or real. Because now with AI, you can generate invoices like you were in a restaurant. You guys do this already? I've actually learned there's now another AI which can distinguish between fake invoices. So like AIs will find AIs. And I guess your tax department would want to actually eventually be able to go to some internal database and query some things. So there's a lot of things happening there. Quite difficult the domain, and Perplexity, AI, which I use for searching, give me all this list. So by the way, how do you know people like if like imagine we are in the future like 2040, right? And you go back in time with a time machine. But there was something weird in time machine. You never know whether you go to which year you go. You just go to a past and then you need to guess which past is that. How will you know, guys, if you are before 2025 or after 2025?
Duh.
Yeah. I think if people still use the verb Google something, that's like before 2025.
Yeah, Google is old school.
It's like that on arrival. Like I don't Google anymore. I use Perplexity to search if I need just to search, or if I need to have a talk, I use GPT. That's it. So I use Perplexity to find me this X reckoning stuff because I know this is happening, and then I load it to GPT and say generate me software requirement document out of this mess. And I got a 5-pager SRD document with you don't see it very well, I know, but it's quite well structured. It refers to all the standards you need to cover. I asked for technical implementation. It gave me XML examples and stuff. Like 2 minutes. Maybe it's not a full document, but it's just 2 minutes. Now, as a human, I can read. I can improve. Actually, I remembered, like on my first job as a developer, I was writing these documents. Like I remember in a project, we would dedicate a 2 months phase to write PRD and SRD documents. It's amazing. And then I created a custom GPT. I taught this GPT how to slice stuff into user stories. It took me 7 minutes yesterday because I'm preparing for another workshop to demonstrate this. I loaded that document from the previous phase into this GPT and I say split it. And it gave me this 2.5-page split with different phases, like phase one, receive and validate. So be 20 to 25 compliant, right? Phase two, you'll be able to now generate invoicing that is 2027, etc., etc. So it was clearly be able to, create essentially a user story mapping with slicing. And the phase one has these four user stories, which actually make sense. Hey, your backlog is done. It is prioritized. Product manager, what you're gonna do for the next for 5 months?
Which
You guys,
GPT did you use for this? The slicing?
it was just GPT for all. It was
Okay.
just the most basic GPT, and I created a custom GPT out of it, giving it some examples. How would you slice? Like super basic stuff, but even without custom instructions, because there's so many examples of user stories on internet, it knows already how to slice things. So like if your teams are still slicing manually and having discussions, I mean, Jira Atlassian has shipped yesterday the new AI-based Jira platform. So AI agents will be slicing, estimating everything, even coding. And then as a developer, you just will need to make sure that all simplify. I know this is simplifying, but and then what do you do with this user stories? Um, I also asked, interestingly, to generate me spec by example. And here I didn't train any GPT. It was just my prompt. Generate me a spec by example table for phase one user stories. Pretty cool. You can implement it. Now you can give it to a cursor app, right? And ask it to generate some unit tests for sure, and then implement them. And we all know where this is going, right? Now you can really switch between domains. I'm not saying it's easy or free, no, but it's easier and cheaper. Now, even me, not knowing anything about this invoicing standard in Germany, I can probably understand more, and I can probably use a cursor to explain my existing implementation, and then add few failing tests, and then maybe ask somebody to help me, right? So versatile individual teams are and R&Ds, trying to sum it all up. I think the core organizing principles of the future-proof organizations is that they need to create versatile teams, and AI makes versatile teams viable. Finally, Scrum can be implemented for Scrum Masters. And the core operating principle, well, multi-learning is the engine to create versatile teams. Okay, and several examples. Multi-learning as an engine, especially in the adaptive topology, AI enables versatility by making the unknowns known and unlearnables learnable, and with ease. So you can really start getting multi-learning. Examples. Please check these examples on the screen while I'll check your discussion in the chat. Yeah, so some examples how people can become multi-skilled, backend developer, going to support and learning the pain and contributing scripts, frontline supporting edge, etc., etc. It's just examples, right? There's a nice discussion in the chat though. Like, are we splitting the user stories to be able to have a conversation on them? For God's sake, yes, that was the idea of user stories, right? So we can have a conversation. And actually, Olena says you can have a conversation with an AI agent or with AI. And a few days ago, I spent 2 hours walking in the city with my AirPods on, and just talking to GPT, discussing some concepts. And I was amazed by the depths of the discussion we had. And there was I have to say, it will sound really bad now. It was the most pleasant discussion I had this week with anybody. It was a smart discussion. I asked GPT to act like an org design professor and challenge me, and it did. And I've learned so much. I came home, loaded those script of this discussion on my screen, and actually I was able to use another GPT to give me some summary, remind me. It was amazing. So AI is a great at having discussion, and people still can have discussions about user stories and acceptance criteria as well. Now you can actually maybe give those spec by examples to actually an expert and see if this makes sense, right? And learn. And so it's not either or. It's AIs and people, and we can be better with AIs. That's the message. And learning becomes the flow. That's a pretty last slide. Now, AI agents will suggest relevant prior work and recommend 5-minute learning prompts. So it can say, hey, team, another team worked on this 2 sprints ago, and it seems like you're working on the similar stuff. Would you like me to explain you what that team was working on? Right? And or maybe you can go and talk to the team, but now you know in instant, in real time, that you have somebody in the company, if it's a large company, who've been working on something similar. It's amazing. So that's the power of AI agents in the team. They can really follow what the team is up to now and really recommend learnings. So in the previous slide, there was about like individual learning within the team. And this is about the team learning by the team. And another thing I think AIs will be helpful for the time beings is rather than static org charts or disruptive reshuffles, AI supports the continuous alignment of skills to work based on live data and evolving interest when multi-loading too expensive. So the whole idea of why we have companies and management structures because we like to match, work to skills, demand to supply. That's it. There's no bigger thing. And AIs can actually, first of all, create turn our resources into versatile teams, which can actually absorb a lot of different work. So you don't need to switch work anymore. You can just bring work to a team and the team will be able to absorb it because with AIs, it can learn. And when this is not possible because it's still too expensive, you can still do some kind of a reteaming. Dynamic reteaming still a thing, but I think dynamic reteaming needs to be seen as a hotfix rather than a solution, because the more you multi-learn, the less reteamings and reorgs you will have to have in your company. And with that, I'm concluding my talk. Stay relevant and hydrated, and you'll be all right for the next couple of years. Happy to have a discussion and be beaten with
Cool.
whatever. And it's almost an hour since we started, actually. So if you guys need to run, it's fine too.
What's your take on? So you were talking about individuals, teams, and cross-team effects. Do you see any future in AIs advising on org design?
Oh, for sure, because that's actually easier than to write software, I think. Like I remember we did this exercise with you, Roland, in a class, one of the, like actually the class in January we had in your home country, where there was some discussion about team topologies and something else. And while some group was working on a flip chart, trying to come up with some idea, I explained this to a GPT very quickly on my laptop, and then I asked, like, give me some ideas and advice. And I was amazed by like with like a th 3-page long answer about org design and implication, and like I said to myself, I wouldn't have been able to write this myself.
Mm,
Although I feel like I'm an expert in this field, like AI knows already so much about org design that I mean, it's just stupid to ignore it. And yes, to your question, I think AIs are your biggest competitor, Roland, because they can advise your leaders on org designs and stuff. But of course, we all understand the change is a social phenomena, and people still like to hear from people still,
mm.
and you have your stories, and you're good looking, and you have a great voice. I think for time being, this will still be your USPs.
Thank you for saving me.
But while you're preparing and like ironing your shirt, going to the meeting, you need to be talking to AIs to prep you as an expert.
Mhm.
So you just become you're becoming a better expert, I think. And maybe if your leaders would just read that text, they will not actually understand how this implies to you. So you still, as human, can connect it to the terrain, to the content. And I think that's our power of humans
Mhm.
for now.
You know
Uh,
what?
yeah,
What struck me this week was in this reshuffle, flipping a company, and
yeah,
the problem, of course, there are some people who have skills that are not so relevant anymore. Like if somebody with a single skill, uh, purely doing design, is not really well in a cross-functional team. Maybe there's just work that doesn't require a lot of design the coming sprints. So immediately after switching to this new team setup, people feel like, hey, I cannot use my specialism. Not even without AI is what I'm trying to say. This problem of staying relevant was
mm,
there already. Okay.
sure,
But for some reason, we all wanted to misinterpret Scrum and whatever it told us to create decent, teams that can solve problems. And we misinterpreted that and allowed it to go astray by having these specialist people running around in it. You know?
right. And this is
So
very
it's nothing new, I'm trying to say. AI is nothing new. It just makes it more clear that it's
no,
time to.
AI is very new, but the implications are kind of not new.
Exactly.
But now we can really reap the benefits of what we've been always
Yeah,
trying to.
because that problem is now easier to overcome with
Yeah,
AI.
it
Yeah.
just makes some problems easier, which have been really hard problems. Benjamin, and I think we will finish after this discussion, has a very interesting comment in the chat. He says, do we really need to care about org design that much? Isn't the agentic network and MC protocols driving the product, and we need to design the instead of designing, and we need to design that instead of designing the people side of things? I think yes, but there's still an org the design of people who are designing and orchestrating AI agents. It's like everybody is eventually as a manager, and as I said in my talk, of some kind of a low level doers will, which are in most cases will be AI agents, but you still have an org. Probably at some point, some AI agents will be orchestrating other AI agents, and you come up with a one-person company who just has a bank account to collect all those profits and pay for the energy bill, which will not be small. But yeah, that's probably also the future, I guess.
Hey, Alexey,
Yeah,
I know you don't believe me when I tell you this, but there are non-believers who think that AI will not at least soon impact their job. And I've worked with those people. How do you see org topologies playing maybe a role in enlightening these people that AI will have impact on their jobs, and maybe they start moving towards learning these new things.
Yeah, so there's a question about octopologies, and of course, we paid Amir to ask this question before because we want to have more questions on octopologies. So, um, um, I think there are people who are skeptical, and I think it's good to be skeptical, and maybe the evolution will not be as fast, but it will be sooner or later here. So I think the more time we give ourselves to prepare, the better. Just ignoring the problem, don't look up. You know this movie like is not helping to prevent the meteorite falling on Earth. Can octopologists help? Well, octopologists can, I guess, inform leaders of these other types of archetypes and explain, as I tried in this talk with 2 slides, where we are going. So it's a language, it's a model which can explain some things. I don't necessarily think you must have it to create an AI-ready organization, but if you are planning some kind of change already, then you definitely need to take AI into the account, and then octopologists can really explain you and give you more options and create a cleaner, I guess, perspective and a vision. So I still believe it's still a useful tool, and we have discovered with Roland, thanks to Craig Lerman, that Octopologies is already an AI-friendly tool because you can actually put all these concepts into place, and you can replace the worker with AI agent on the Octopologies map and explain like how people will elevate becoming these vertical managers for AI agents and how multi-learning or creating this I call them versatile teams is a great move on the map, and how you will need eventually less people in the company to be able to do the stuff that before more people had to work. So I think it's a great map still to explain all of this, and it will be relevant for another 10 years at least.
So maybe it will not convert the non-believers to become believers. I don't think that's the power of the map. But where I do think I agree fully with Alexey, where it will help is to make a better use of AI, if you're going to use it anyway, to not just replace single-skilled individuals, but also understand how multi-learning can create a more adaptive organization. And it becomes easier if you start using AI for that multi-learning.
Fantastic, guys. I think
There's another question from Benjamin. Do we take it?
but we're gonna keep it. We are doing a recording today with Benjamin, and he's just getting himself warmed up for the interview, which is good. But we're gonna answer this question in the interview, which we'll record in an hour. Thank you.
Cliffhanger.
That's only fair. And I would like to have a break now before the recording. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us. And people in the future watching this recording, put some comments under this video if the future is not like it is described. It will be fun to read that. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Good talk. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.